What's up, guys? Scott here from Chernobyl Studios, and today we're going to talk about a new EQ plugin that I've really started using a lot in new productions with clients because I really like the functionality that it offers me straight away from opening it. Now, I know that you guys see me use pretty much FabFilter exclusively all the time, and it's true. I love FabFilter; it's fantastic for what I like to do. But lately, I've been getting more into dynamic EQ. It's sort of I'm really fascinated by this concept where I can make moves, right? But I'm not, it's like this is a static EQ move. So if I, boost this by 6 dB, it's 6 dB all the time. It's never gonna change. It's never gonna move. It's never gonna react to what's happening with the music. And I was like, it kind of doesn't make sense. If something is happening here at a particular point in the song where I need to do a 6 dB boost, which would never happen at 200, um, ideally, it would only make sense to have that boost at that particular moment in time in the song, which means then you're going to have to open the automation lane. You're going to have to automate the EQ to happen only at this time. And there's a lot of these extra steps, right? And I'm just lately, I just want to do things fast. I just want to have a plugin, super efficient, and just do things fast. That's what I'm really getting into. And while okay, Scott, all you got to do is make the EQ move, and then here's the dynamic feature, and right here, it's no big deal. Okay, I get that part, but also this also is just a static dynamic EQ setting here. I mean, there are settings here where we can change the threshold and you do stuff here, but again, this is I have to get in here with this little interface. I got to change the threshold, and then I just want to open a plugin and do a dynamic EQ move immediately. It just so happens there is a plugin for that, and it's called Gliss EQ from Voxengo, and this is what it looks like. I mean, it's black. I mean, it usually comes gray, but there are tons of colors or whatever makes you happy. Um, and the cool thing about this plugin is if you see here, if I just want to boost here, I already have a dynamic. It's already dynamically set. It's already going to change to the music. And the really cool thing here is that I can actually change how dynamic this EQ is going to be. It could be static, which would be 0, or it can be ultra dynamic with a setting of 250. Meaning I could boost this at a setting of 250, I could boost this like 30 dB and you would barely even understand it. It would only react to what is happening with the music. And I really like this feature of the Gliss EQ because it makes things way more musical as we are about to hear. So I have this song here, Suicide Manor, which, by the way, you can download the multi-tracks for free, link down in the description, so you can download these multi-tracks for free. And what I've done is I removed the original processing that I did, and I did completely new processing with just the EQ here. We have one, two, three, four instances of EQ, a multiband, and a limiter. And that's all that's happening. So let's see what we got.
Get out of the city!
Awesome. Now if we move here. Great. So I really love the result. And what you're really listening for here is build up in the guitar mids, low mids, and it not being too harsh in the high end. And I'm really able to accomplish both of these goals with the CQ, and let me show you why. So let's go over some of what I've been doing here. So this is the G12Ms of the guitar tone that I created. All right. And if we just start looking at the interface here. So here's the EQ, obviously. I have the black version because black is cool. We have a lot of functionality here. So we can load presets. We can A/B. We have routing here. Okay, we can this is so incredible because we can do anything really that we want. We can even do mid-side processing. We can route to what we want things to look like. It's and we have presets for the routing. Okay, I mean it's just insane. We can solo what we're doing. We can copy it. We can do a big view like this if we want to, pay more attention to what we're EQing. Obviously, we have settings for how much of the range that we would want to see. Like if we're doing huge cuts, we could see 30 dB, or we just want to keep it 12 dB, keep it magnified to what we're in this particular case that we're looking at. We can set the dynamic. What's the word I want to go? Functionality, instant, relaxed, okay, or normal, okay, and we can set different static spectrums. I mean, it's freaking ridiculous. Areas. This is really cool, actually. So if you're EQing bass, for example, you have an area here where you can see where the bass frequencies are. You can even see the notes if you expand it like this. You can see the notes of the bass and where they land in the frequency range. This is just really, really, really interesting, really cool. You have basic, meaning where you just have the basic areas of where the instruments would sit in a mix. So if you're learning how to EQ for the first time, you can pop this up and be like, oh, here are the different aspects of where the instruments would sit in the mix. You have the drums specifically. Again, we can pull this on out. You can see where there's just it's almost overwhelming actually, but these are really amazing tools. Like if you're learning how to mix and do things for the first time and how things sit together, these are really amazing tools to visually understand where they sit in the frequency spectrum, and it's really awesome. I'm gonna turn that off. Over here, obviously, we have the output. We can do the input, the output of what's happening with our signal, English, good stuff. We have all of our EQ points here. Here this is where we can work with the filter, the bandwidth, the gain, the dynamic setting, which we'll talk about here. Obviously, the frequency. Now, this spectrum here is really cool. All right. Now, this is a functionality that it's similar a little bit to the Fab Filter plugin, but I really like how I don't. So, see, with the Fab Filter plugin, if you want to sidechain, you go to the Fab Filter, you sidechain it, and every instance of Fab Filter is there. And you literally, if you use like 12 or 13 instances of it, it's all there. And you'll have to scroll through it all and find the exact one that you want. The Voxengo Gliss EQ, I can export. Okay, I want this EQ to be exported so that I can import it into another EQ, and I don't have to sift through all of the different instances of Gliss EQ on my session. I can just go, nope, I want this one. It's exported to track 1. Boom. Let me show it here, and it'll show up on the frequency spectrum. It's mind blowing, really, what Voxengo is really doing. And if we go here, Voxengo also has allowed us to do linear phase. It literally has everything that you could imagine for an EQ. It's right here in a single plugin. Fantastic. Really enjoying this. And the main reason is because of the dynamic EQ function. Okay, so now I have 2 of the EQs open, and I turn my camera off so I can show these correctly. So on the left side here, it's the G12Ms. On the right side, this one right here, it's the K120Ss. So if we just look up here, we can see the names. Okay, and we see we have 2 completely different EQ moves because, let me just turn this off actually. All right, and this one off too. Okay, so if we look at them individually, usually this is what it's going to look like when we're looking at guitar EQ. Okay, and we can hold it. That's so cool. We can hold it and we can look at it. I can talk about it. It's great for demonstration purposes. So if we're looking at this, right, we sort of have to look at this in real time and be like, okay, this is what's going on over here. We got more mids here. Maybe we can cut out here. And then, because ideally you'd want to do a complementary EQ, right? So because you can't have both of the guitar tones in the same exact spots at the same time. I mean, not only do you have frequency masking, but it's just not going to work. And really, the whole point of blending guitar tones together are to fill out the guitar tone. So what one tone does not have, you would want the other tone to make up for. But before we get to that, let's turn this off here. And now let's solo K12 or G12Ms. All right, so that's what it sounds like. Now let's A/B the moves that I did with the EQ. Now you hear the difference, right? It's softer, and it's not as muddy or boomy. And what's really happening here is this dynamic EQ setting. It's not just pulling out, 4 dB of the low mids, just like whoop. It's not just doing that. It's pulling, like we're pulling it, but the dynamic EQ is reacting to just how much is happening, and it's sort of leveling it off. It's doing a nice soft reduction of the low mids instead of just going thump. Here we go, no more low mids. And that is much more natural to me, and it sounds more smooth to my ear. Same thing with the high end up here. If we look up here with this EQ cut happening right here, I put the dynamic at 150 because I don't want it to be totally obvious that I'm pulling a bunch of high information out of the guitar tone, because when you do that, it's just like putting a pillow over your ear. Like the guitar tone is not exciting anymore. It's not interesting to listen to. It's really dark. But I just wanted to take that the abrasiveness out of the high end, something that I would usually use Soothe for, to get rid of that ultra high end nastiness that's just hurting my ears. This plugin does that with one little small EQ move with a dynamic setting of 150. You can clearly hear the difference. And let me show this to you. So just to show you how the dynamic EQ works, I'm going to just pull this all the way down. And if you would see an EQ like that in any other plugin, you would be like, oh, wow, something is not right. But let's do it here. And you can see how, yes, we're doing a reduction, right? We are reducing the highs, but it's really natural sounding. It's very smooth and soft. You can just see this red line here completely reacting to what is happening. I'm absolutely blown away by that, because I can now, instead of doing EQ where I'm just trying to find like where it stops being the most annoying part, I can almost shape it, just like, okay, how is this sounding? I'm really enjoying that. Can we pull down a little bit more? Because I know the dynamic EQ will bump back up when it needs to, so it keeps things uniform sounding, and it's fantastic. And it really helps me level out and just make the guitar tone more pleasant to listen to, okay? And it's fantastic to use, right? Now, obviously, the same thing I did with the other EQ. Let me switch views here. With the other EQ, it's the exact same principle. Okay, the exact same principle. And what's happening now is we're looking at both EQs, but, this is kind of hard to look at, to understand what's going on. So we can export the spectrum of this information and pull it up on this spectrum so we can compare what's happening. So all we have to do is we tell it to export it to whatever channel, and we have 48 channels. It's ridiculous. We can export it to channel 1, all right? And then this one, we export to channel 2, okay? And then basically we say, okay, we want to import from channel 2, which would be this one. We import that, and we import from channel 1, which is this one. And we do that, and if we press play, now we have the spectrum on both. And let me do this again. So you can also hold independently the spectrums. Okay. So I'm holding the spectrum on this one so I can watch what's happening with the other guitar. Same thing here. Now I can also hold the spectrum of the imported frequency. So now I can sit here and I can really go, okay, this is what's happening with my EQ. This is freaking awesome. Where I can just import and export what I want to see, and I can hold it and I can sit here for a second and really take in what is happening with my guitar tone. And I can make moves that are complementary straight away, being able to understand, okay, I like this, I don't like that, and being able to make a guitar tone that's much more cohesive sounding and it sounds glued together instead of really trying to guess or trying to fight with the information that I'm seeing, with the frequency spectrum and stuff like that. I just really, really enjoy this. And then obviously, the dynamic EQ settings really make it even easier because again, I'm doing, a negative 4.3 reduction, but I'm not really. It looks worse than it actually sounds because of the dynamic EQ setting. Okay. Now, obviously, there are more filters here. Let me just show you. We have a bunch of filter types. This is ridiculous. Okay. Peaking, low shelf, high shelves, low pass, high passes, notches, all the different types of EQ that you would want to use. And I also really like that if you double click, it enables and I mean, it turns it off and on. You don't have to click and, stuff like that. If you click it like that, let me make sure my bandwidth 250. Mouse wheel changes the bandwidth. Very simple, very intuitive. Okay. Or you can come down here and get absolute precision. Obviously, you can also change how much of the spectrum that you'd want to see, which is also fantastic. If you don't want to see anything more than this, like okay, I only want to see that. You can sharpen your focus of what you're trying to do. And yeah, I'm very impressed with this particular plug. I can't believe I hadn't heard of it for such a long time, but I'm a really big fan. So those two EQs were just to get the complementary sounds for the guitar, and then we have the more EQs here where we do a bit more workhorse stuff. And let me show you what these are actually doing. So let's turn this off here. See, I love this because even though like we have a bunch of low end happening here, when I turn this on, it's not like the low end is gone. It's still there. It's still like a full bodied tone and that dynamic cut. It's just taking out exactly what needs to be taken out without completely neutering the low end and the thickness, and the body of the guitar tone. And that is so amazing to me. And also these notches that I would normally make like this. You can totally hear that. It's a wonky, nasally frequency. You would think that okay, for these type of cuts, we need to relax the dynamic element, and you really don't. You can pull these out as well, just like in my guitar tone masters. I teach you guys. You pull it out until you just barely stop hearing it. That concept works fantastic with the dynamic EQ as well because think about it. It's only pulling it out as much as it needs to. Those annoying frequencies are not amplified or don't sound that loud at all points of the song. So it really is quite fantastic, and I really am just loving this aspect of the EQ. You see how I mean, it's obviously harsh when the cut is not there. But even when I put the cut in, I'm not completely neutering the guitar tone. I'm just subduing that particular issue, right? And even though the guitar tone is sounding a bit dark right now, we're going to fix that. And that's really what this test is all about. And when I first started doing this, I was like, okay, that's great. Now let's see what a boost does. Because it's one thing to do reductive EQ. That's not a big deal. It's always a good thing. But what about adding EQ? And what about adding EQ to guitars at like the 2K region, which is what I'm doing right here? let's check this out because the guitar is a bit dark sounding right now. All right, so let's go ahead and enable this and see what happens. It's such a natural boost. It's so soft. It's not annoying. You know, it's not like, ah, God, and I just put all those harsh frequencies right back into the guitar tone. It's really soft because if you follow the red line, it's only doing a little bit. So we're just bumping it up a little bit. Ah, it just sounds so good. It sounds so natural. And that's really the guitar tone right here. Let me move over here maybe. By the way, this is always a great test. If you have like black metal stuff where you're doing tremolo chords, yeah, awesome. Then I just have a stock Cubase multiband. That's it. And then E-bus limiter, which has turned into my favorite limiter for simple uses like that. Guitars, bass, drums, even I'm using it. I'll have to do a video about this, but I really love this plugin. But yeah, and that's it. That's the Gliss EQ. It's an amazing plugin. I really like it. I really like the functionality that I get from it. I'm a big fan. I believe that it can be used, and like I said, the linear phases here, and you can even change. I don't even. I have to be honest, and I don't even know, um, what these really do yet. I would have to read the manual and really get into this. But I would have to say that Alexei and Vladimir, um, have done an amazing job out there at Voxengo. Really need to give Voxengo much more of a serious look and to see what they're doing over there because this is awesome. All right. All right. So that is the Gliss EQ. Fantastic plugin. I really enjoy just how you can shape the tones seemingly in a more natural way with the dynamic EQ settings that the Gliss EQ has, plus all the added extra functionality. A fantastic plugin. I definitely will be looking at Voxengo more seriously and expect some more videos from me regarding Voxengo plugins. All right. So yeah. GlissEQ, big thumbs up from me. Also, remember, guys, this is the Suicide Manor Halloween song that I did. I made these multi-tracks completely free for download. The link for that is in the description. You just sign up for the email list, and the link gets sent to you automatically. You can download them completely free, and you can try your hand at mixing the song. So, yeah, like I said, link down in the description. Go ahead and click that, download the multi-tracks, and have fun mixing. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Have a good one.